Andrew, thank you so much for chatting with me. It's a pleasure to chat, or it's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, buddy.
I really appreciate it. Sunrise is a wild trip. It's just a solid film. I really appreciate it. Where did the idea come from?
Well, it came from the writer who is from Belfast. His name is Ronan Blaney.
Hmm.
Um, I did try and figure out with Ronan where the origin of the story came from, and his word was like he said it was like about atonement, and it was initially set in Northern Ireland. So what I did is I kind of got to the point where I realized this is a bit of a metaphor for Northern Ireland and the troubles there. That's how it seemed to have come about. But it was wrapped up in this genre piece about a vampire. And then the vampirism I just treated like an addiction. You know, so it's like the the extreme violence of the region
Hmm.
that was perpetrated through the fear and the hatred resulted in like it becoming like an addiction, and it's like a kind of a recovery from that addiction to like violence and hatred and fear, basically. It's like so that to me is where I kind of landed with the whole piece, if that makes sense. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So what was it about the film that excited you most? I mean, this is a really interesting idea now that you're tapping into the idea of addiction and recovery,
Yeah.
which certainly plays in with the whole Redcoat storyline, if you will.
Mm.
What was it that excited you most to bring out?
Well, I mean, it had some incredible characters. Like Reynolds in particular was such a delicious monster, of a human being. He really it was probably the best character I'd ever read. And I just loved the world of it. It's like a western, contemporary kind of western. But it had this dark kind of horror edge to it. But I never saw it as a vampire movie. Like it just didn't the it just this was a guy who was addicted to blood, and the blood was representative of the fear, of the land, that this is a land soaked in fear. And it, as I said, it went back to that origin of like, okay, well, this is like was originally like, to me, a metaphor in Northern Ireland. Uh but then you could transpose that to the United States, which is what we did. And it's like or anywhere else in the world, it's like the need for this land, and to have an identity, and to go. And then you know it's like these primal fears of like it tapped into those primal fears of like of being afraid of people who are different than you, and and the racism. And it was very topical. It was very dark, but it was very relevant. That it was how human beings like tend to like still just find ways to not get along with each other, and because it's just fear. It's just all about fear. And that's what I kind of approach the movie with, is how to overcome these kind of primal fears, that we have with each other.
It's interesting to hear you talk about it because, you talk about it transposing over from, being about the troubles in Ireland. This is a
Yeah.
film that talks a lot about the American dream. So, like, you've talked about it a little bit here as you talk about, fear and the ubiquitousness of that. But was that did you find more comparisons between the culture, between the situations than you expected? Because that's a completely different area with different issues going on.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I'm from Dublin, and I spent a lot of time, I've been in the US since for 18 years, so I know both regions, and and been in California or whatever, New York. It's like any are around the world, this happens everywhere. It's like it's happening right now. It's like, this land is ours. This is for us. This is for this is rather than to be communal, it's like, no, we're going to segregate. This is for us. You can have whatever. So it's and that's just based on people's primal fears, of not being okay with just being in unison with everyone. Not to get too like philosophical about the whole thing, but that's kind of where it kind of came from. That's really, and I think the writer, he wrote this script a long time ago. I think it was like 18, 20 years ago. So it must have been just
Wow.
after the peace process. It was probably a result of that. And I think with this story of this character coming to terms with the loss of his family, his wife, coming to terms with loss and tragedy, and then falling into this kind of purgatory, and this addiction, and then recovering from that. It's quite a journey. And I mean, that's really what it's about. And then it's representative of, like, a region like Northern Ireland are able to find a place to kind of begin some form of healing, which is pretty huge. It's the same way as in the United States, in different pockets of all over the United States, that all these different people have learned to some degree, some better than others, and to live together with a degree of harmony, which is it's a big deal. Like, to have, there's no place like the United States, where every culture and race from all around the world have landed here, and there's been a lot of troubles, but there's been a way that we've found a way to kind of live together, which I love different people and different cultures. So not a problem for me, but for a lot of other people, people get afraid of those who aren't like them, which is sad. But that seems to be a big pocket of the populace. It's fear.
And that comes out in the film. I mean, certainly with Guy's character. I mean, his view of America is the only view of America in his mind. This is what America is, right? Have an American beer. It and creates that division. I love that you're talking about this aspect of fear. And I guess the natural question from this then is, why is it, for some people in your mind, that there's such fear of the other, someone who is different than them? Because America is supposed to be this place where everybody comes together.
Uh, because I mean, I think a lot of it is to do with hardline religious kind of ideologies, whether whatever they are, the various ones, they're all in the end tend to be like, it's pink, it's blue, it's purple, it can't be anything else. People want certainty, they want assurances, they want definites, and our existence isn't that. That's just the reality. But I think that's what it is. So when people find themselves around or in situations or with others who are not like them, it makes them uncomfortable, because they're being taken out of their little bubble and their comfort zone of, like, what is definite. They just want security, this illusion of security, and they will fight for that illusion of security. So I think that's what it is. A lot of people just don't want to have wide experiences. They want to feel that this little bubble that they're in, they want to stay in it, and they want to feel secure in it. But there is no security. Like, anything can happen at any minute, but it's just that mindset. And I think the hardline religions really work on that. And like, as the Reynolds family are very much like a puritanical sort of, this is the way it is, this is what it says in the book, this is the way it's going to be. And it's tremendous. That's how vast like amounts of people are controlled. It's like, suffer now and you will be rewarded later. It's very handy for the few that are controlling that, you know. It's like, suffer, yeah, pay now and we will pay you back later, you know. And that's basically, the Reynolds clan have kind of like bought into that, like so many. It's like, yeah, this is our land, this is our world, and we will do whatever we need to keep it pure, you know, to keep it secure. So they just say that in their, that's their ideology. So they're pretty sick and twisted, toxic people.
Absolutely. I mean, and Guy does a wonderful job of just like setting fire to the you know, to the screen and the characters. He's just burning on like any time he's on. On the flip side, of course, so there's this family. Forgive me, I cannot think of their last name, but they are
Boys, the
yeah,
Asian family, yeah,
the Asian
Chinese.
family. Yes. And they are suffering from the loss of the American dream.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, in your mind, I mean, having been in the US now for, like you said, 18 years, do you think that still exists? Or what does it mean today? Is that still a thing that people are clinging to?
What, the American dream?
The American dream.
Well, I've experienced it. Like, I mean, in terms of like, it's here because it's the United States. It's like full of opportunity, and there's no place like it, you know. I mean, there's no place like it. I've been able to spend a whole bunch of time in Ireland and the UK again with these movies, and but these movies come from the US, and I've been able to make them back in where I'm from, and but the opportunities come from here. And it's like, if you have any talent or any, well, it's ambition is really the key. That's the core ingredient required for the United States, is you need to be ambitious, because it's totally encouraged and supported. It's the DNA of the nation, is ambition, you know, and drive. Whereas if you go to Europe, and I know Ireland, UK shut that stuff down. They get nervous with people who are ambitious, you know, because they're going to rock the boat. You're going to shake the status quo. And it's the same. I know a buddy of mine just shot a movie in Italy. Everyone's chill, super chill there, and you know. So whereas in the United States, it's like, it's like, oh, you're from somewhere else, great. You know, you're bringing new blood, new drive, new ambition. Now there is that core racism that is across. It still exists, whether it's between about females or people from different cultures or whatever, you know. But I've gone east, and the further east you go, you can see that even as a woman becomes like a second class citizen, or not. I wouldn't even say there's that traditional where the man is here and the woman is here. It still exists as you go east, but particularly in California, it's the most liberated place, probably, I would say, in the world. I mean, in my humble experience. Again, you know, I'm about to go to Africa. You know, I haven't been to China, you know, or Asia yet. I have barely. And it's like, I can only say from my experience, and don't get me wrong, you got to work your ass off in the US, because it's like you can have it and lose it like that. You know, it's like, that's my experience, you know, as an immigrant. So, but whatever you want, you can achieve. I mean, the infrastructure is there to achieve it. And like, look, I'm a white male, like, you know, somewhat, you know, like older, whatever. So I'm not like I'm like the minority now, you know what I mean? But you know what? It's like, I don't even try and think about that. You know, it's like, if you're focused and you're driven and you've got something to say, or you've got a point of view, or you've got a mission, there's no better place to do it than in the United States, because they'll support it. You know, I mean, it's a country built from every nation of the world, and somehow with a lot of issues and troubles, and still that way, we've found a way to kind of live together and kind of prosper, you know. And although there's been a lot of division, whatever, there's no place like it. And that's the truth. So I think the American dream, I don't know, it's as alive now as it ever was, you know. So I wouldn't be a filmmaker if I hadn't come to America. Not a chance. There's no chance, because where I'm from, it's all politically based. It's all about agendas and political agendas, and, you know, which club you're in and all this sort of nonsense, you know. Whereas in the US, it's about business. You know, it's about business. Can you do something that's going to generate a degree of business, you know? So there is no way I'd be a filmmaker if I hadn't come to the US. No chance.
Wow, that's amazing. That's you know,
yeah,
honestly,
in the truth. And I continue. That's why it's such a gift to be able to make American movies, but often make them in different parts of the world, but they're American films. I grew up with them. I love them. I respond to them. They're genre pieces, and to be able to go around the world and make these movies, it's a gift. But it's completely because of not just coming here, but also staying here. So yeah, and I'm very grateful for that. Plus, the weather in LA is unbelievable.
I appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. We've run out of time. I really appreciate it. The film is so much fun. It's dark, it's brooding, but with some solid character work. I like that you talk about it being not a vampire movie, because it feels like a vampire movie for people that don't love vampire movies. It's something its own thing. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
My pleasure, mate. You too. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you too.